भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 20, titled Lord Vishnu's Appearance in the Sacrificial Arena, and text number 14. Text 14. If you go to vedabase.com, and on vedabase.com you can click on the book Srimad Bhagavatam, and once that book opens, then you go to Canto 4, and then Chapter 20, and text number 14, 1-4. Okay. Shreya prajapalaname varajño Shreya prajapalaname varajño Yatsamparaye sukrutat sashtamamsham Yatsamparaye sukrutat sashtamamsham Hartanyata hrita punya prajanam Hartanyata hrita punya prajanam Arakshita karaharo gamati Arakshita karaharo gamati Shreya prajapalanam eva rajño यत्साम्पराये सुकृतात् षष्ठमंशम् हर्तान्यथा हृता पुण्या प्रजानाम् अरक्षिता करहारोगमति श्रेया प्रजापालनमेव राज्ञो षष्ठमंशम् हर्तान्यथा हृता पुण्या प्रजानाम् अरक्षिता करहारोगमति. Vaishnavis. श्रेया प्रजापालनमेव राज्ञो सुकृतात् षष्ठमंशम् हर्तान्यथा हृता पुण्या प्रजानाम् अरक्षिता करहारोगमति. Let's look at the word-to-word meaning. Shreya, auspicious. Prajapalanam, ruling over the general mass of people. Eva, certainly. Rajnyaha, for the king. Yat, because. Samparaye, in the next birth. Sukritat, from the pious activities. Sashtam amsham, 1/6 part. Harta, collector. Anyatha, otherwise. Krita punyaha, being bereft of the results of pious activities. Prajanam, of the citizens. Arakshita, one who does not protect. Karaharaha, tax collector. Agham, sin. Ati, receives or suffers. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: to give protection to the general mass of people who are citizens of the state is the prescribed occupational duty for a king. By acting in that way, the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens. But a king or executive head of state who simply collects taxes from the citizens but does not give them proper protection as human beings has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens, and in exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. Let's hear the purport. The question may be raised here that if everyone engaged in spiritual activities to attain salvation and became indifferent to the activities of the material world, then how could things as they are go on? And if things are to go on as they ought to, how can a head of state be indifferent to such activities? In answer to this question, the word shreyaha, auspicious, is used here. The division of activities in society, as arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was not blindly or accidentally created, as foolish people say. The Brahmana must do his duty properly, and the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and even the Shudra must do the same. And every one of them can achieve the highest perfection of life, liberation from this material bondage. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.45. Swe swe karmanyabhirataha samsiddhim labate naraha. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can attain the highest perfection. Lord Vishnu advised Maharaj Prithu that a king is not enjoined to give up his kingdom and the responsibility of protecting the prajas or citizens, to instead go away to the Himalayas for liberation. He can attain liberation while executing his royal duties. The royal duty or the duty of the head of state is to see that the prajas or the general mass of people are doing their respective duties for spiritual salvation. A secular state does not necessitate a king or head of state who is indifferent to the activities of the prajas. In the modern state, the government has many rules and regulations for conducting the duties of the prajas, but the government neglects to see that the citizens advance in spiritual knowledge. If the government is careless in this matter, the citizens will act whimsically without any sense of God realization or spiritual life, and thus become entangled in sinful activities. So we have a long purport. We will start discussing a little bit, and then we will cover the rest of the purport as well in the class. So let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhuter Mahadbir Yaima Puro Vibhu Nirmayashete Yadamosh Purusha Bhunkter Gunam Shodasatmaka Solang Krashishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me. Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Kata Amritam Satatapibatam Bhakti Vedanta Marga Panktanam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam. Hare Krishna. Welcome again everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, for the pleasure of Shri Radha Gopinath, Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnava devotees and everyone, today let us speak and hear from the most beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a literary incarnation of Shri Krishna himself. So every word in Srimad Bhagavatam represents a tiny part of the beautiful form of Krishna. So we approach Srimad Bhagavatam with that mood and we try to see what we can learn today. So in today's verse, essentially what we are hearing is we are continuing to hear the instructions given by Lord Vishnu to Prithu Maharaj. So there was a little pastime where Prithu Maharaj was conducting some sacrifice, and then there was a leela happened where Indra, the king of heaven, he came and he stole one of the horses. That is when he was almost about to complete the sacrifice. And then what happens? Lord Vishnu appears in the sacrifice and then he pacifies everyone. And he is now giving instructions to Maharaj Prithu on how he should carry out his duty as a king, as a Kshatriya. And in today's verse, what we are seeing is that the most auspicious act for a king is palana, or protection to his citizens, giving protection to his citizens. So Shreya means auspicious, all auspicious. And there are two things, that is Shreya and prayers. So prayers is something that gives temporary benefit. And Shreya means that which gives us ultimate benefit. So these are two different things. Now, as we carry out our different duties, we experience this parallelly. We experience immediate benefits and the ultimate benefit. So the immediate benefit might be, like we might be getting some little profit from whatever work that we are doing. We might be earning some money, some little profit we might get, some savings we might do, all that. But the ultimate benefit we get when we offer that to Krishna, whatever results that we are getting out of our work, when we offer that to Krishna for Krishna's pleasure, for his satisfaction, then we get the ultimate benefit, which is we attain love of Krishna. And ultimately, at the end of this life, we can go back to Krishna to serve him in his spiritual abode. So in today's verse, Srila Prabhupada is very beautifully explaining in the purport how when one is placed in one's own position, wherever we are situated, when one does one's duty simply as an act of duty and for the pleasure of Krishna, then what happens? That gives us the ultimate benefit, Shreya, which we saw, which is liberation from material bondage, liberation from our entanglement of going repeatedly in the cycle of birth and death. So here in today's particular verse, we see Srila Prabhupada quoting from Bhagavad Gita. What is the verse? Swe swe karmanya birataha samsiddhim labate naraha swakarma nirata siddhim yata vindati tachrunu. So Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. So, Lord Krishna is very clearly stating in the Bhagavad Gita that wherever we are situated, and we have the beautiful Varnashram Dharma. So, the different Varnas, whether one is a Brahmana or a Kshatriya, that is, one who is an administrator or a king, or one who is a Vaishya, one who does business, or one who is a Shudra who does different laborious activities, wherever we are situated, if we simply do our duty for the pleasure of Krishna, then that is our highest perfection. So we don't have to worry about doing someone else's duty. And we also have the different ashramas, that is brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. So in whichever ashram we are situated in, we do the duties that are prescribed for that particular ashram of our life. So that is a spiritual order. Brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. So we don't have to pretend to do some other duty of another person wherever they are situated in. So that is what Sri Krishna is telling us. So in the next verse in the Gita, he says, Yata pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmanatham abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So, as we are doing our duties, along with that, we don't just focus simply on doing our work, but along with doing our duties, when we worship the Supreme Lord, who is Suhrit Satam, he is our dearmost best friend. So if we simply do all our activities by constantly thinking about Krishna, by meditating upon him, his beautiful form, his qualities, by chanting his glorious, beautiful names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Simply by doing this, what happens? We can attain perfection in our life. So now, for example, this beautiful Mataji is sitting here and she is making garlands for Krishna. So as she is making her garlands, she is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So her ears are engaged in hearing about Krishna. Her eyes are looking at the beautiful petals that are going to be offered as a garland to Krishna. Her hands and her sense of touch is engaged in making the garland. And also she is, getting the fragrance of, the incense that is being offered here in the altar for Krishna, fragrance of the petals. And she is engaging her whole body this way by serving Krishna in doing her duty. Now she is in a grihastha ashram. She has a family, she has her husband, her children to look after. And yet she is devoting time to serve Krishna and meditate upon him. So like that, in today's verse, we are particularly seeing what is the prime duty for a Kshatriya or a king. So Lord Vishnu is saying that for a king, his prime duty is palana, or giving protection. And simply by doing his duty, what does a king attain? He attains 1/6 of the punya, or the pious credits of all his citizens. So can we imagine that? Simply a king, by doing his duty, how much punya or pious credits he is accruing. All of his citizens, whatever good activities his citizens do, 1/6 of that the king also attains. But at the same time, if a king doesn't give protection properly, then what happens? He loses his own pious credits also to his citizens, and also as a punishment, he accrues the results of the negative activities of all his subjects. So then we can imagine what is going on in the world today. Can we see all the terrorism and the war and all that is going on, where people are just killing each other in a very unruly way? Isn't it? Terrorists killing innocent people. How much the leaders of those nations would be accruing for themselves. So the negative results of all that those terrorists are doing, it will also go to the leaders of that particular nation, which is what we are seeing around the world, and which is very, very sad. And at the same time, a king or an administrator or a leader has to give protection to his own subjects as well. And that is why in the contemporary context, we have the naval force, we have the air force, and we have the army. They're all prepared. Now, what is happening in our own home country? Back home in India, we can see the latest Pahalgam attack that is happening. And how now we are at a brink of a very tense situation between India and Pakistan, which could have been, not at all required. But when terrorists act in such a way, then what happens? The leader of a country has to give protection for his subjects. So we have been seeing in the last couple of days, the naval chief has gone and met the Prime Minister Modi, and the Air Force chief has also gone and met the Prime Minister, and they are having talks, they are having discussions, and we don't know what steps are going to be taken. But at the same time, it becomes important for an administrator to protect his citizens. Now, this protection is not just protecting our life. So that is what Srila Prabhupada also goes on to explain in the purport. So real protection is not just protection of this body, but it is protection of our bhakti, of our spiritual life. And sadly, that is neglected around the whole world. And that is why we are seeing all this terrorism and all this, negative things that are happening. So what is protection of our bhakti? Protection of our bhakti means engaging one in serving Krishna, in serving God. But at the same time, when people take that to extreme religious beliefs, when they become extreme in their practice of religion, then what happens? There is no compassion. There is no kindness. There is no love for others. And that is what leads them to these fanatic behaviors and very fanatic actions. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us in the purport that how we have to engage ourselves, engage our thoughts in practicing a spiritual life that will ultimately give us ultimate protection. So not just protection of our physical body, but protection of our bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining that, we'll also look at this one verse from the Gita. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtitat swabhavaniyatam karma kurvan napnoti kilbisham. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. So, a Brahmana has to do his duty according to his position. A Kshatriya or a king has to do his duty according to his nature. So there in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that sometimes for a king, he has to perform very abominable actions. For example, one has to be violent. So that is why in a war we see that people are, killing the enemies. One has to do that. But when that action is done in such a way that ultimately what we are giving to our people is Krishna consciousness, is a spiritual life, is love for humanity, then what happens? A king does not accrue sinful reactions of that particular act, which is what Shri Krishna tells even Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Fight, do your duty, but do it as a sacrifice for me. Yajnartat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So do your duty as a sacrifice, as a way of pleasing the Supreme Lord. So by doing that, what happens? We do not become subject to the positive or the negative results of our actions. Because then what happens? Our activities become transcendental. That is, it rises above the modes of material nature. So we have to see that how we can constantly please Krishna in all our activities. So Arjuna was a Kshatriya and he didn't want to fight. But Krishna was telling him again, again and again and again. That is what we are seeing in the Bhagavad Gita. Think about me, bow down to me, sing my glories, remember me. And constantly, by thinking about me, keep doing your duty. Don't sway away from your duty. So we will just read a little bit of the rest of the purport and see what Srila Prabhupada is saying here as well. Because it's quite a long purport and I didn't want to miss out anything. So in the next part of purport, Srila Prabhupada says, an executive head should not be callous to the welfare of the general mass of people while he simply goes on collecting taxes. The king's real duty is to see that the citizens gradually become fully Krishna conscious. So that is what we heard. Krishna conscious means completely free from all sinful activities. As soon as there is complete eradication of sinful activities in the state, then there will be no more war, pestilence, famine, or natural disturbances. This was actually prevailing during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira. If a king or head of the government is able to induce the citizens to become Krishna conscious, then he is worthy to rule over the mass of people. Otherwise, he has no right to levy taxes. If the king looks after the spiritual interests of the citizens, he can levy taxes without difficulties. In this way, both the subjects and the king will be happy during this life, and in the next life, the king will be able to share 1/6 of the pious activities of the citizens. Otherwise, by levying taxes on the sinful citizens, he will have to share the reactions of their sinful activities. So, here Srila Prabhupada is elaborating on how one attains that 1/6 of the pious activities of the citizens. And if he simply collects taxes, so what is, this whole thing about collecting tax? People are earning money. And by earning money, at the end, after, like all their whatever, the net income, then whatever is excess from that, they have to pay to the state, isn't it? So that is a tax, essentially. Now, if a government or the leaders, if they are constantly collecting this money from the people, but at the same time, if the people are engaged in negative activities, we can imagine what is going on in the world. How much of illicit professions are there or illegal professions are there? How much cheating is going on? And how much of unethical professions are there? People are killing animals just to make meat, and they are selling meat. Now, all this is so unethical. By hurting another living entity, a person is earning money, and then from that money, he is paying a tax. And when the government is collecting that tax, now we can imagine how much of negative sins that leader is accruing. Isn't it? That is what Srimad Bhagavatam is revealing to us. We wouldn't have even been thinking about all this, isn't it? People just go to the shops, they just buy meat, go home, just cook, just eat. Do they even think about all these subtle elements that are involved in our way of life? So once we hear all this from Srimad Bhagavatam, then what happens? It brings about a change in one's heart. And that is how we can make people Krishna conscious. So if people start realizing, I have to give up all my negative way of earning money, whatever it may be. Let me start doing ethical work. Let me start caring for Mother Earth. Let me start caring for the people around me. How can I serve people through my work? Now, for example, recently we have seen that some of the devotees from our temple, they have started a beautiful restaurant, Gopinathas, which is in the city. And from here, what are they doing? They are making prasada. They are making wonderful vegetarian, nice dishes. They are offering to Krishna. And then they are selling that. Their focus is not in the earning of money, but their focus is in distributing Krishna Prasad to whoever comes to their place. So we can imagine all the uni students, who are in the city, or the people who are working in the city, when they all go there and when they take that prasad, then slowly, slowly it will change their heart and mind. So it is said that simply by taking prasadam, our heart changes. Our heart becomes Krishna conscious. That is one of the elements. Because not just by, eating prasadam, but eating prasadam will aid, it assists. And then we read books, we hear about Krishna, and then, like all of us are doing today, then we speak about Krishna. So by doing all this, slowly, slowly, we can help the citizens of our country change. So it is a long-term protection. So, we are hearing so many people, giving their opinions on what is happening, between India and Pakistan, when we just go to the media. And there again, we see some of the spiritual leaders saying, what is the immediate action and what is the ultimate action? Immediate action, yes, you have to immediately, look after your citizens. So you have to go find the terrorists, do what we have to do. But what is the ultimate protection? We have to help those people, those very terrorists, to change their mind, to change their heart. How do we do that? That takes years and years of spiritual education. So by coming in contact with devotees, when devotees start speaking to them, we have seen that years ago, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they went to Russia. And there, they made so many devotees in the most difficult situations. They would be hiding and they would be preaching, in the places where they had to stay. And we are even, hearing that even in Bangladesh, like where there is a lot of tension. But yet, devotees, they somehow, through their efforts, they are trying to give Krishna Prem to everyone. So like we saw prayers and shreyas, prayers is the immediate effect or the immediate benefit, and shreyas is the long-term one. So we have to work on both parallelly. And then that is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that if we were to, follow the spiritual principles carefully, then we don't even need any war. We don't need any fight. There will be no terrorism. People can all serve peacefully, just like how it is in Vaikuntha, just how it is in Goloka Vrindavan. Because Krishna is right here with us. So it is for us to turn towards him. So in the next para of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the same principle can be applied to parents and spiritual masters as well. If parents simply give birth to children like cats and dogs but cannot save their children from imminent death, they become responsible for the activities of their animalistic children. Lately, such children are turning into hippies. So this was a time when, in the late 60s and 70s, so Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that. Similarly, if a spiritual master cannot direct his disciples to become free of sinful activities, he becomes responsible for their sinful acts. These subtle laws of nature are unknown to the present leaders of society. Since the leaders of society have a poor fund of knowledge, and the citizens in general are rogues and thieves, therefore cannot be an auspicious situation for human society. At the present moment, the whole world is full of such an incompatible combination of state and citizens, and therefore there is constant tension, war, and anxiety as an inevitable result of such social conditions. So can we see Srila Prabhupada's words of about more than 40, 50 years ago is still holds true for us. And Srila Prabhupada is praying, he's pleading, please take to bhakti, please take to the spiritual path. And by doing that, we can avoid all this war and anxiety and tension that is prevalent. But at least we can be thankful that we have Srimad Bhagavatam with us. We have Srila Prabhupada's teachings with us that is helping us. Imagine if all this was not there, then even we won't be able to sit peacefully here in Australia, isn't it? In Sydney, in Radha Gopinath Temple. Everywhere there will be war, isn't it? At least we should have gratitude in our heart that we are living in a country where there is some peace around us. We don't know what happens in the future. But wherever we are, we have to express our gratitude that Krishna is always with us. So we will hear this quick little leela where in Mahabharata, after the first day of the war, Maharaj Yudhishthir, who is the eldest of the Pandavas, Maharaj Yudhishthir, he came back and he called for a council with all his other, the kings, and with Lord Krishna sitting next to him. And Maharaj Yudhishthir told Krishna, how can we fight against Bhishma? Look at Bhishma's arrows and the way he is powerfully killing all the Kshatriyas who are on my side. And all these Kshatriyas, they are giving their life because of their love for me. Is this even correct, Krishna? What am I doing? All my warriors are losing their life by facing the arrows of Bhishma. And I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather just become an ascetic. I can't take this war anymore. Saying this, Yudhishthira, who is a Kshatriya, he is the eldest of the Pandavas, he's saying, I will just give up. And at that time, Krishna gives solace to Maharaj Yudhishthir. So what does he say? I will just say his words rather than, he's saying something. So Lord Krishna says, first Krishna doesn't say anything. He just lets Yudhishthira pour his heart out. He just allows him to pour all his feelings. He hears. And then Krishna says, he knew that the Pandava king had no intention of abandoning the fight. And therefore, Krishna then says, what does he say? Where is this? Krishna says, O best of the Bharata race, do not give way to grief. You are surrounded by great chariot warriors who are all dedicated with heart and soul to your welfare. I am also engaged in doing you good. You have your brothers, as well as Drupada, Virata, Drishtadyumna, Satyaki, Shikhandi, and many others. All of them are illustrious fighters who will not waver in battle. Shikhandi will surely slay Bhishma in due course. Do not despair. So here, Lord Krishna is again just asking Maharaj Yudhishthir to follow his Kshatriya dharma, to give protection to his subjects, to Pandavas, to his, the subjects of the people, and to more so to slay the Kurus, or the Kauravas who have been acting so very, ferociously, and who have been so unruly in their acts. But even though Bhishma Dev took their side, it was for a certain cause, he was still serving Krishna by being on the other side. But at the end, what happens? We know, the Pandavas win, having Krishna on their side. So that is what we are essentially learning from today's verse. That in whatever position we are in, we have to simply do our dharma according to our position by constantly keeping Lord Krishna in the center of our life. So we will conclude with this beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita, where we will hear it. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmayudhya cha mai arpita mano buddhir mam evaishasya samshayaha. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport to this verse, this instruction to Arjuna is very important for all men engaged in material activities. That is for all of us. No, we can't just run away from our duties. We have our different duties. The Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them and at the same time think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, without a doubt. So, on that note, let us pray to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath that wherever we are in our position, let us simply do our duty for the pleasure of Krishna by placing Krishna in the center of our life and by doing all our activities for his pleasure, by constantly thinking about him. Ultimately, we can go back to Krishna. Jai Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Any questions, comments? Garo Bhaktavrinda ki Jai. Yeah. That's correct. Very good point. So Mataji is saying that, firstly, the king, to give protection, he should be Krishna conscious. And which is what even Srila Prabhupada was explaining to us in the purport. And that is why we are all here like warriors. We are trying and we are distributing Bhagavad Gita to everyone. So what can we do in our little steps? Maybe take Bhagavad Gita, go and meet all the political leaders in person, give them Bhagavad Gita in their hand and say, please read this. At least we have taken our step. And then it is up to them whether they are going to read or what they are going to do. But it is said that the minute at least they touch the book, that itself is Krishna's mercy to them. In fact, I've even heard that once, even Prime Minister Modi, even from India, he had said somewhere, that once he was in Russia and, he was walking somewhere and then some Russian devotees came and they gave him Bhagavad Gita and that he was so happy to receive it at that time. So like that, and we also have the future leaders, isn't it? Whether the current leaders, they have it or not, it's a process. It will take time to change. But we are building the future generations. And the more we can get, Krishna conscious leaders, then the more we can have a peaceful society. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. Okay. Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, absolutely. So that is what we saw. So the ruler gets 1/6 of the pious credits of the citizens. So the more and more citizens we can make who are Krishna conscious, and the more ethical, their work is. And through that, when they pay the taxes, then we are also giving, we are sharing our pious punya with the leaders. So, that is also one way, currently, the more the Krishna conscious devotees are, and when devotees pay taxes, we are giving that pious credits to our leaders as well. So then what does that mean? Devotees should earn more, pay more taxes. Yes, yes, we can, give all your might, but we also have, what is that thing called? Tax deductible thing, So when you make donations to the temple. So we can also recycle, our pious credits. So what do we do from, we give donations for Radha Gopinath. And then what is happening? We are refueling even within the devotee community, So, and the temple is an open place, isn't it? Radha Gopinath is here for everyone. So whether they are leaders or whoever it is, any person who comes to the lotus feet of Krishna, they will get the benefit, isn't it? So that way we can even dovetail our tax paying. So, when we give donations to Food for Life, you get a tax deductible thing or something like that. But so what happens? That money is being used for Krishna's service. And we are distributing prasadam here. Let's say if someone has to pay $1,000, that $1,000, if they pay here for Food for Life, they are distributing prasadam to 1,000 people. And through that, they are giving Krishna's mercy to 1,000 people. Isn't it? So how wonderful is that? And such a joyful process. So it's said in Bhagavad Gita, Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmam Susukham Kartum Avyayat. So this whole process of Krishna consciousness is very Rajaguhyam. It is secret. It's like once we know how to go about it, then we have understood the secret of life. Now, for example, very well-educated people, they are giving up their professions, which may be in their own subject, like maybe engineers or, biomedical people or, biotechnologists. But they are taking up a work that will please Krishna, by which they can serve Krishna. Then what happens? They are taking up the highest profession. So this the normal people may not know. Like they might be thinking, what is going on? Like, why is this person doing this? Now, for example, I had a journalism job back home in India when I was there. And then after I moved to Australia, I realized that, dancing is my heart's calling. I want to teach Bharatanatyam. I want to, pursue my art more seriously. And at that time, I still hadn't taken to Krishna consciousness. But I was a practicing Hindu. But then once I started learning about Krishna consciousness, then what I started doing, I started dovetailing all my work towards Krishna's seva. So, through all the choreography, that I teach my dance students, performances, everything for Krishna's pleasure. And then from whatever I'm earning, donate to the temple. And now this morning, sitting here, trying to serve all of you, trying to please Radha Gopinath. So by doing all this, we are slowly dedicating our life to Krishna. Now we are on the path. We are not perfect, as yet. But on the path, if we simply do our duty for Krishna's pleasure, then that is our perfection. Thanks for sharing that point. Yes. Okay, all right. We'll end here. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. I need your blessings so I can please Radha Gopinath and all the devotees. From Alice Spring. Wow, we have devotees who've come here from Alice Spring. Let's chant a big Hari Bol for them. Hari Bol! And let's chant one Hare Krishna to welcome them, devotees from Alice Springs who have come to see Shishi Radha Gopinath. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let's offer all our prayers for all your devotee friends in Alice Springs, and please welcome, request more of them to come here as well, and hope you carry some inspiration from here that you can go and give back to all the community there and spread more of Krishna Prem. All the best. Hare Krishna.